In the past, Israeli prime ministers from different parties have said they were willing to relinquish control of Arab neighborhoods in East Jerusalem to their Palestinian counterparts. In 2000, Ehud Barak, the former prime minister from the Israel's center-left Labour Party, offered to the Palestinians neighborhoods in East Jerusalem and the site that Jews call the Temple Mount and Muslims call the Noble Sanctuary, the holiest site in Judaism and the third most holy site in Islam. And in 2008, Ehud Olmert, from the centrist party Kadima, Forward, similarly offered to withdraw from East Jerusalem neighborhoods and the Old City of Jerusalem, where the most important holy sites are located. Labour Party leader Gabe, a successful businessman who is a relative newcomer to politics, switched his party affiliation from the center-right Kulanu party to Labour before taking control of the party in July. Since then, he has moved the party to the right, although not without controversy. In October, Gabe broke with the Labour Party's long-standing tradition of opposing Israeli settlements in the West Bank when he suggested that a peace deal with the Palestinians wouldn't necessarily require Israel to evacuate settlers from territories it would turn over. If a peace deal is made, why do we need to evacuate? I think the dynamic or the terminology that we have become accustomed to, that if you make a peace deal you evacuate, is not actually true. Gabe supports a two-state solution, which is the solution to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict that the US and most of the international community prefer. Meanwhile, Israel is bracing itself for massive protests as the Palestinian leadership called for 3 days of rage. On Thursday, most protests were held in Palestinian-majority towns in the West Bank, including Hebron, Nablus, Jenin, and Ramallah. Protesters sparred with Israeli soldiers, and more than 95 Palestinians have been injured. But the Israeli Defense Establishment expects violence to erupt in East Jerusalem on Friday afternoon following afternoon prayers. It is preparing for such an event, which will include rallies at Damascus Gate, the commercial center of East Jerusalem. Looking ahead, nobody knows precisely what to expect, or how long the violent protests will last. The leader of Hamas, Ismail Haniyeh, described Trump's announcement of a war declaration against the Palestinians, and called for a new intifada, evoking the First and Second Intifadas, years-long periods of conflict between Israeli Jews and Palestinians in which thousands died on both sides. Many have noted that controversies related to Jerusalem have inspired violent protests in the past. The Second Intifada began after Ariel Sharon, then head of the opposition, made a controversial visit to the Temple Mount in Jerusalem. And last summer, there was a brief but deadly crisis when, after a terrorist attack killed 2 people, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu installed metal detectors outside Al-Aqsa Mosque, the house of worship located in the Noble Sanctuary and an important symbol of Palestinian nationalism. After massive Palestinian protests in East Jerusalem in which several Palestinians died, the crisis ended when the metal detectors were removed. Ben Manson is a freelance journalist based in Tel Aviv.